Welcome back to the Bentonville Beacon podcast, where we're sharing stories and advice from the leaders sparking the rise of Bentonville, one of the fastest growing and most dynamic cities in the United States, nestled in the Ozark Mountains of Northwest Arkansas in the heartland of America. Hey, I'm your host, James Bell, and I am thrilled to share the studio today with Aayush Thakur and Deme Yuan, who are the co-founders of FR8relay. That's a Bentonville-based startup that is transforming long-haul trucking. Aayush and Deme, welcome to the show.
Thanks.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, you bet. Well, fire up the engine. Let's start this drive. What would you each like the Bentonville Beacon audience to know about you?
We are here. And we are a small startup company based in Northwest Arkansas. Love the area. Just working to establish our careers and to build our life here. And, you know, we bought a house here, so just chugging along. I don't know what else to add to that.
What about you, Deme?
Just that we're really excited to have found Bentonville. Before coming, we had no idea, what a treasure was here. So we're excited.
Wonderful. We're going to talk about that. Talk about first FR8relay. Who is your customer? What's that problem that you're really passionate about solving, and how are you doing it?
Yeah, so FR8relay is a technology product that is built around a patent that I hold. And the concept is fairly simple to grasp. And it is essentially that instead of moving long-haul cargo using one truck and one driver, you can do that using multiple trucks and multiple drivers. Now, people will say, why are you overcomplicating this? The reality is that the way it's done today, where one driver picks up the cargo, goes to a loading dock, parks the trailer, loads up the cargo, moves it to the final destination and drops it off, that could take that driver, depending on the distance and, time, it could take the driver 2 days to finish that one load, and trying to find something paid to come back home may not be possible. So that driver is on the road for weeks and months at a time, while the cargo, when the driver is driving, it at a gas station when the driver is sleeping. It's the cargo is resting when it doesn't need any rest, and so is the equipment. So the objective is for our product, for our company, is to increase efficiency in the way long-haul trucking is done. Our beneficiaries would be everyone involved in the value chain, including truck drivers, equipment owners, and cargo owners, of course, perishable products, non-perishable products. And then, of course, the large manufacturers, large importers, exporters who move a lot of volume around, they can see a lot of benefits out of our efficiency that we generate.
Wonderful. So you're saving time and money and making people's lives better. I'm curious how long, so for the listeners who may not know, how long does a truck driver have before they have to stop and sleep or not drive? And then how long do they have to have off? So we have an idea how long cargo is just sitting around. And
then that kind of shows your background also in understanding or have heard us talk about this before. A truck driver under federal law can drive only 11 hours in a day and work up to 14 hours in a day. And what usually happens is the driver would be able to drive maybe 6, 7, 8 effective hours during the day. Sometimes is stuck or wasted when the driver is stuck at a loading dock or, unloading or, refueling or, so they would have up to 9 hours of productive work, and they would get stuck at a gas station sleeping because then, they can't go further in their journey for the day. And then they will pick it up the next day and so on and so forth. So they will keep doing it. And they are working under this framework that has been federally set for their safety and for everyone's safety on the road. But it really impacts the personal lives of these folks who are actually bringing everything that we consume to our houses.
Yeah. So really, if they're allowed to be behind the wheel for 11 hours of the day, that is 13 hours where things are just idling.
Wow. Okay. Now I have to know what happens when they're on their way home and they get to, I don't know, hour 10 and a half and home is an hour away. Do they cheat the system? Can they cheat the system? Do they have to stop there and sleep? What do they do?
So before 2017, yes, they were the way to cheat the system. But after 2017, the federal government and, Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, a long name, but the acronym is FMCSA, they mandate that, 11 hours is 11 hours. And they have a electronic device plugged into the vehicle, and that device kind of tracks anytime the truck is on and moves. And even if they are a minute away from their home, they still have to stop, and they still have to finish rest of the trip the next day after their rest is complete.
Oh, that's incredible. What inspired you two to start the company? Why you two?
That's a great question, and I don't think it's something that naturally comes to us. I came to the U.S. in 2010 for a master's program in Florida, in Tampa, and my discipline, I would say my coursework was aligned with transportation, civil engineering, and then also my graduate research work that I was doing for my professor. That was funded by Florida Department of Transportation, focusing on looking at the GPS data from the trucks. And I started looking at that. I did analysis for them for a couple of years. And in that analysis on the map of US, I saw and just for Florida, I saw these bunch of points, like GPS coordinates on the map, like just totally close to each other. And that always amused me, because I was like, why are the trucks waiting here at this, in the middle of nowhere for 30 hours, 13 hours, 20 hours, whatever, they would do that. And that always amazed me. And when I started driving around as part of my consulting job after graduation, and also working for Tennessee Department of Transportation, I just realized that these things are built into the system. As Tennessee Department of Transportation employee, we would go out and talk to these small companies. And most of the times what we would approach these companies with would be, to get feedback on what kind of transportation solution these guys need, what kind of roadway needs improvement. And Lamar Avenue in Memphis was a big decade-long endeavor on this. But most of the time, these small companies are just trying to survive on a day-to-day basis. They have such razor-thin margins, and they are trying to keep their trucks running while making sure their drivers don't leave out of frustration and, the quality of life. So using all that kind of naturally aligned, with what I wanted to do. I had a patent on this technology that was, awarded to us in 2018. And from the technological aspect, the human aspect, we decided to jump full-time into this. I jumped first, of course, because I was more close to it, but then I asked Deme to kind of assist in, because I was just a tech guy. It was no business. And then Deme comes along and kind of creates a whole structure around it.
So Aayush invited me in the first place because, I come from actually the nonprofit world. My undergraduate was in sociology. My graduate work was in social work, though with a focus rather than on clinical, on organizational leadership for community development. So after I had many years experience working in small nonprofits that were under-resourced. Loved my jobs, but always ended up burning out. So Aayush knew, I just figured I'd continue on in nonprofit, but Aayush knows me well. We met in 2013, got married in 2015, and in 2017 he said, I'd really like some help getting this company started, and you have kind of that organizational mindset. But he knew that the way to bring me in was to have me read a book that was by a man by the name of Steve Viselli, who did his PhD dissertation on truck drivers, and it's really a look at like labor studies and the life that they live and kind of the institutions that set things up to work in the way that they do. And that really, he had a mind for the social impact that could be created with this innovation. And he knew that would really be kind of the driver for me too. So that's how I got into it. And little did I know that so many skills from working in a small under-resourced nonprofit are transferable to starting up your own company. and
it's not like I knew that beforehand. It just fit nicely with that.
Absolutely. I can probably make a whole list of those. Well, you two have been really crazy successful at attracting non-dilutive funding. The number of grants and 3-lettered agencies or other number lettered agencies that y'all have behind you are really astounding. In fact, I've lost count. So will you share how much grant funding y'all have been able to aggregate so far, and then talk perhaps about a couple of the most important ones, who they're from and what you're doing with those grants?
Yeah.
Sure.
So in total, we've got about upwards of $1 million in grant funding thus far, I would say. So we've had a phase 1. These have mostly been small business innovation research awards through federal agencies. So that would be, we've had a phase 1 and a phase 2 through the U.S. Department of Agriculture, who has been really interested in the potential impact that we can have on economic development for rural communities. If we place our relay switching locations in rural communities. We have phase 1 Department of Energy SBIR, and they're very excited about the aspect of this that has to do with both they're interested in equitable energy innovation, distribution to folks who aren't traditionally invited into these sorts of conversations involved, but are really interested in the opportunities we can create for reducing greenhouse gas emissions, increasing the productivity with the fuel that trucking uses, and in the short term, but also transitioning to green fleets in the future. So if you take out that 13 hours of idling time when you're keeping the driver warm by idling the engine or keeping them warm in the winter or cool in the summer, then you're removing an hour of gasoline or diesel burned per hour and reducing those emissions. In the long run, the same, if we position, say these drivers they're allowed 11 hours of drive time. So if they drive, say 4 to 5 hours to the relay switching place, swap trailers with somebody going the opposite direction and go back home at the end of the day, they can also swap out a tractor, an electric or hydrogen fuel cell or other kind of charging technology at that location and take a fully charged tractor back to their home location. So this is a way today, electric vehicles are only used and marketed for short distances because it just doesn't make sense to have to stop and wait for them to charge in long haul. But with relay, we could actually make it make sense. So the Department of Energy is really interested in that. And then the National Science Foundation has funded a very technical machine learning study that we are working on. That I just also would like to plug. Arkansas Economic Development Commission has wonderfully granted us 2 SBIR matching grants, one for our phase 1 USDA and one for our phase 1 DOE.
Wonderful. Yeah, we've got some wonderful opportunities here in the state with SBIR matching.
And I want to, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah,
I wanted to add to that, but Yeah, you can finish with that.
Oh, I was just going to say, like every state with those programs, we need to expand it vastly.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And I think from our perspective, where we are location-wise, this is not a traditional venture capital hub where we are. So we did try to, see if we can find and locate, they're limited, of course, in that aspect. So that was one of the reasons to also kind of go after these grants which are available. And then they were non-dilutive, which is just cherry on the guitar.
Amen. Yeah. Anytime you can take money and it doesn't take equity from the company, most of the time, much of the time, that's a great thing. Did you tap into resources here locally in Northwest Arkansas, particularly in helping you write the grant or, folks to, I guess, give you sponsorship letters and so on?
Oh, absolutely. So yes, in terms of support in writing the grant, we had a wonderful support team, both through the Arkansas Small Business Technology Development Center with Rebecca Todd, who just left. We miss her, and Catherine Corley, who is also amazing. And then and through T-Tag from the AEDC, we're able to bring on Dan Sir from Independent Platform to support. We also have had wonderful support from Startup Junkies, Science Ventures Studio, and Katie and her team. So yeah, we've been very lucky to benefit from those programs.
Yeah, and in terms of connections to the people who wrote us letters of support, that was a lot through the local effort, through our connections with Fuel and other people we have run into in the startup circles. So those are just very valuable connections.
Yeah, it's a super supportive ecosystem, isn't it? You've had other successes along the way. You were one of FR8relay was one of 6 companies, I think, that Tyson Ventures selected for mentoring and other partner opportunities. And if there's anybody in the audience out there who doesn't know, is not local, Tyson Foods is one of our 3 Fortune 500s located here in Northwest Arkansas. What's that program with Tyson Ventures all about?
Yeah, so that is, and we are still moving along in that process, but they invite Tyson Foods investment arm, Tyson Ventures sends out this invite all across the world for all the companies that fit whatever vertical they want to explore in their business model. They would invite these companies, they would pitch to their leadership team. I think we went through 2 or 3 rounds of this. The first round was a big round, and then they had, I think, 20 selected after that, or 10 selected after that, and out of that, then they further selected only 6. And the idea is that, or at least the cohort that we are part of, the focus of that was to meet Tyson's ESG goals. And we, based on our DOE work that we are already doing, fit the bill because Tyson moves a lot of meat products across the country. If you look at Tyson's manufacturing locations, they are mostly located in the middle of America. And a lot of people in the coastal sites, a lot of stuff moves daily. And most of that stuff is perishable, so moves via trucks. And if we can reduce emissions on that, that is a direct impact for them in terms of reducing emissions per pound of meat sold. And that's how we fit in that model.
And just in case the listeners aren't familiar, the ESG goals are environmental sustainability goals. Yeah. So that's really what they ask applicants to this program to come with them with ideas that will help them further their mission there.
Yeah, and they have reopened a call, I think. I don't know if this episode will come out in time for that, but they are, I think, doing an upcycling call for this particular cohort that they are doing this year.
So any other achievements on this? I mean, I know, Aayush, that you're now a member of the Forbes Business Council, so congratulations.
Thanks, yeah.
Any other big like things to announce in the past few months?
Aayush has been part of the IIT startups cohort. I don't know if you want to say anything about IIT.
Yeah, so IITs are the university system I belong to in India. That's how I came up, in that technology space. They, all the major, a lot of major companies have CEOs that are Indian, and the common thread behind that would be that IIT, they are from that college graduates, so that they have an annual cohort of startups that they do through Pan IIT, which is all over the world organization, and we are part of that this year. In addition to that, I was invited to join the board of Arkansas Asian Businesses, which is a trade organization, and they also are opening or starting a nonprofit organization. But the idea is to promote kind of commerce between Asia and Arkansas, and having the business leaders who are here and have connections in Asia to kind of connect with the local business leaders here and in Asia together. So that's kind of what we are focused on in that aspect, and that's very exciting work. I've never been part of such an organization, and it's really interesting to learn how such organizations operate.
Yeah, you bet. That's very cool. Bentonville Economic Development joined AAB last year. In fact, I just realized the last time you and I physically saw each other was we were hosting a Chinese delegation for dinner.
Yeah, that's true.
Here. Yeah. So yeah, absolutely, through AAB.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So let's talk about Bentonville. I mean, what's the history with Freight Relay in Bentonville? How did you find out about this place, and why did you relocate here?
Yeah, so we started out in 2018 in Memphis, and that's where we were. We were trying to see if our relay model will work for the trucking folks there, because Memphis also has a lot of trucking activity, but we realized that with the drayage model, where they have intermodal component, where trains are part of the equation, it's hard to compete with trains in terms of cost. So we were looking for some other place to plant a flag, and then we actually met Edwin when he was in Memphis for an event. I think it was the
startup of the year.
Yeah,
that's where I met
the
him.
event, and that's where we met him. And then he went on and on about like this fuel program in Arkansas, and we were like, great, yeah. So then we reached out to Taylor, who was at the time managing the fuel program, and said, hey, we have heard about this program, and what do you guys think? Do we fit the bill? Because they were doing AI stuff, and we had thought about that, but we hadn't implemented that yet. So Taylor said, hey, come on over for like a fest or something here.
It was actually the Tech Summit.
Tech Summit.
Oh,
yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah, so we came for that Tech Summit, and then we said, wow, this is an awesome place. And especially, in terms of trucking, it's just a lot of trucking activity. So we said, yeah, this makes sense. So we applied for fuel, got in, and we just moved everything here. We were actually we have moved so much. I think we had a permanent storage unit everywhere we went, and some of our stuff was in this storage unit, someone there. So
we had an idea, coming to the Tech Summit, meeting Edwin Ortiz, who is from Rejoicey, as I'm sure many of our listeners know. We had a feeling that Bentonville could be the place for us. So we gave up our lease in Memphis, said if, when we either we come back and we, just relocate, or we come to Bentonville. Once we got here, we knew this was the place for us.
Yeah. So we emptied our apartment there, moved everything in the storage unit, took some basic stuff, and we also have a daughter, so she's 4-year-old, so we picked her some stuff and just moved here.
That's so cool. Well, you got into fuel. They run 2 accelerators. You may be aware that they just launched a second one. They have an artificial intelligence machine learning accelerator and just launched a health tech accelerator. And by the time this episode airs, that first cohort of that accelerator will be in session. And for those, well, let me talk about Fuel real quick and what their differentiator is, because there are many accelerators out there. And the differentiator for Fuel really is, while other accelerators focus, I'll call it on VC coaching, they focus on operational value training. Would that be an accurate statement?
Yeah, I think on the industrial side, yes. And with how the VC market is going, I think definitely learning about the customer is very important.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, specifically they match seed and growth stage startups with key enterprises, a number of which we have here in the region, so that they can accelerate the adoption of your technology. What's your pitch to other founders who may be considering Fuel? Why should they do it?
I think they have to evaluate what works for them. From our perspective, we looked at what kind of business we are in, where our customers are, and both of them align perfectly with Arkansas. Now, if you're trying to do like a food thing, or where you need a lot of people, maybe Fuel is not the thing for you, because Fuel focuses on AI and this kind of stuff. So I would definitely say that if your product or business fits the needs of large enterprises, then Fuel has those connections and can introduce you to those enterprises. If you are a B2C company trying to product test in the consumer market, it will be tough here because it's a different setup. So that's how I would kind of lay that out.
And I would say that a big selling point for Fuel too is Tom Douglas, who is the director of that program. He's fantastic and has been sitting in the chair at the enterprise, and so gives really great, frank, excellent perspective, and is a mentor of ours. We're really lucky to have kept a relationship. We now engage him as an advisor.
That's great. Yeah, Tom's awesome. He's awesome. And I'm glad you called out that if you're B2C, maybe it's not the right place, but there's other accelerators we have that folks could go through.
Exactly.
And I've run accelerators or helped run accelerators, and it always amazed me how many applications we got from folks that weren't in the sector, weren't the type of companies that we publicized that we were looking for. So, if you're a startup and you're applying for accelerators, don't waste your time with those, because you won't even get past the beginning of the application process. It'll get dumped by somebody like me the instant they see it, and nobody else will ever get to see it. So don't waste your time with that. Focus on the ones that can help you most. Did y'all have, or I guess I'll ask a different question. What did you expect, when you thought Bentonville, we'll go check it out? What did you expect that you were getting into? I mean, you'd gotten into Fuel, but what did you expect you were getting into in Bentonville? And then what was reality?
I think never having heard of Bentonville before moving here, I think what we thought was just, like any regular, small town that you drive through when you are, on an interstate, and you take an exit and you go for refueling, and you're like, oh, there's a town here and people live here. That's what we thought coming in. And then we started looking and exploring and finding things, and we were like, oh, there are Indian restaurants there are Indian grocery stores there. And I know that's a rare thing, but considering that Indian people make such a small number or such a small percent of the population, having these many stores here, looks like a lot of different kinds of people live in the area. And I was just talking about Indian perspective, they're Asian there. So this, at least remotely, looked like a melting pot of a lot of people and a lot of things, coming together. And when we moved here, we were like, wow, this is, perfect. From my perspective, I come from a very small town in India, and everyone knew everyone. So this has that kind of feel compared to, like, I've lived in DC, Denver, some big cities in Florida, and they're just, too big from what I'm not used to. And this is kind of that ideal setting.
I would say 2. Let's see. I had a thought, but it's kind of evaporated. But is to the part of like, we hadn't heard of Bentonville previously. We just are less familiar. I'm from Colorado, and just have spent less time in this part of the country. But once we got here and just were so surprised at like, why hadn't we heard of this place before? Because half of the men in my family are avid mountain bikers, and this is like mountain biking capital.
Not me. So.
He's not part of the half. But then also when we go back to like visit his family and see friends there, and we're surprised to hear that they knew about Bentonville.
They know about
They call it
Bentonville
because a lot of our friends work in tech in India, and they have contracts with Walmart or so they actually, some of them have worked with companies here.
Isn't that funny? It's funny how small the world is in many ways. Deme, I mean, so Denver, I lived in Denver for a while. I could go into my story why I'm here instead of Denver, but why here? I mean, I know when I first came here, y'all were you were in a period where you were considering going to Denver. You were still kind of in flux. Why did y'all choose here over Denver?
Well, once we, of course, like my heart is in Denver with my family and friends there. But my, Bentonville has grown a place in my heart. This is a place where we, once we came here and we saw what kind of opportunities, like that this might be the right kind of place to grow our company. It's, there's trucking out west is a little different. There's, the cities are stretched out further between each other. And so being close to this Dallas-Chicago route, and there's a lot more dense trucking activity happening on the eastern side of the country than on the western side. Not to say there isn't anything over there, but this is a better place to start our company and to grow and to have our headquarters. And the thing is that there are fantastic flights between XNA and Denver. Frontier has amazing deals. So once I learned that, it was like, well, there's no question.
Yeah. We have a couple of different airlines servicing Denver. So I've been on those flights. It's fantastic. Now we knew each other in Memphis, and you were in fuel. And at the time you were in another program in Memphis where I was part of the program teaching folks how to sell business to business. And funny thing, while y'all were in that program, I was interviewing for this role in economic development that I'm in here in Bentonville. And I couldn't tell you at that time. So I am thrilled that we all landed here. Aayush, Deme, this is, how else has this community embraced Freight Relay and helped you build your company? Are there other resources you've been able to tap into? You named some earlier.
I think as a working couple, there is of course the business side of our life which we have touched, right? The people in the community have been very helpful, in getting connected to the right folks here. And if they don't know folks, they would just say, I don't know, and go find it yourself. Like just, yes or no are both great answers. Ambiguity is a big problem. But on our personal life too, we have a daughter, we have a house here, we're living in the community, and that is also phenomenal. The people are just amazing. And I've lived in big cities, and maybe it's just that, setup because I've been, if you start with 2010, I've been in the US for 13 years now. So this I feel like is more friendly people, or at least, that's the experience that I've had compared to Denver. Was nice, but I lived in East Coast, which I would say, I feel like this is more, or I feel better in this kind of setting.
Very cool. Well, I've played a game of Bentonville favorites with a lot of guests. I don't think I've ever had a married couple on the show. So let's see if I can start a marital spat.
We have very different tastes and choices, so it will be. Yeah.
Good. We're about to find out. I mean, marital spats are really great for ratings, right? Jerry. Wait, no. That's a different show. I'll name a topic. You tell me your favorites. Both of you just blurt out answers. We'll see where your differences are.
Mm-hmm.
Favorite Bentonville restaurants?
Johnny Brusco's for me.
Oh, okay.
And I would say Blue. I love fish and sushi. We can't go there every day, but it's a wonderful treat.
Yeah. Excellent choice. Very near our office. Favorite Northwest Arkansas non-Bentonville restaurants?
I always go to the Chili's that is in Rogers. I really like them. I know it's a chain, but I really like them.
Fair enough.
And I would say lately we've been going. I would say we hadn't been to a lot of restaurants, especially because like a month and a half after we first moved here, COVID broke out. So
yeah,
and then we're also parents of a 4-year-old. So, but where we have been going lately has been China Cafe. I've been missing my roots, and just there's some dishes there that I'm like, okay,
they are pretty good, like Szechuan restaurant, which is rare to find, like a good one, and that one is pretty good.
Where are they located? I haven't tried that.
They are near that Russell knife thing. No, near that.
Yeah, in Rogers.
Around. I don't know. Just search.
I can find it. I can find it. Favorite place to, even with a 4-year-old. I mean, we have a 2.5-year-old, so I totally understand. But if you have an answer, favorite place to get away in the Ozarks on a weekend.
Well, we haven't had a lot of opportunity to do that, but we would usually end up at the movie theater that is on A.
You talking? Okay, non-Ozark.
Skylight.
We did go.
Oh, are you talking about like outdoorsy stuff?
Outdoorsy, town to get away in. Wherever.
We one time.
I'm not an outdoorsy person.
Fair enough.
Yeah. But yeah, I hasn't been very far afield, so I do like outdoorsy, or I like hiking.
Okay.
But I would say that right now, with kind of all the responsibilities, probably the farthest that I'm going is to Osage Park.
and since we have been married, we have been on 2 hikes. One was the first time we met, so we were like both trying to impress each other too. We both had outdoorsy.
Oh, yeah.
And second time I went on a hike, I broke my ankle, so that's it.
Maybe you should go hiking.
Yeah.
I go by myself now.
Yeah.
I love going to Osage Park and hiking around the boardwalk through the marshland and hopefully encountering the beavers and so on. So Bella Vista's not far. For some
I need to get up there.
See, if I see something like that, I would run away. Like, that's so scary for me. Like, oh my God. A wild animal. Oh my God, run. We have a little hamster and that's it.
You might find something more than a beaver in Bella Vista, I suspect. But Bella Vista's got, these waterfalls and these hidden places that before we started building trails, they were really inaccessible. The general public couldn't get to them because they didn't know about them. Although people in Bella Vista would know how to, get through the woods and through the hills to that. Favorite Bentonville date night?
Well,
boy.
I mean, I really do.
We have date days now, which is
fair enough.
It's and I'll say probably the most frequent is Skylight Theater.
Skylight Theater. Yeah. It's a nice close by. We just show up there and
it's a wonderful place.
And I think we recently went to Theater Squared in Fayetteville.
Oh, yeah.
It's just that commute is an hour. That's the main issue. But we checked out that show, Kim's Convenience. Which is
we just went to that recently, and you drive slower than I do. It's 30 minutes.
He must mean like an hour 2 ways.
Okay. So we went to that recently, and it's funny because we go to Skylight pretty often too. One of these days we're going to run into each other doing these things. Favorite things about Bentonville and Northwest Arkansas in general?
I like the compactness. Like, I can go from one end of the town to another in 1 hour, and that's it. That's all I need to know about.
His time frames are a little off.
I know.
Well, if you consider Northwest Arkansas the town.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
And that's the way I think about it. I talk to people. I think this place is right. Northwest Arkansas is the city,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
the towns are really the neighborhood. So you can bring your business here and put it in whatever zip code is right for the business, and then your employees can live in the zip codes that they choose.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And that's the part that I really like, because like Fayetteville is nice, small town, more like, well, I was young once, and
yeah.
it's a young town compared
Dixon
to
Street's fun.
moving. Yeah. And then moving north, I haven't spent a lot of time in Springdale and around, but of course Bentonville is there. Rogers also is pretty nice. It's very beautiful. The whole that lake area.
Oh, yeah.
I really appreciate just like the trail system, and I really do need to explore more of it. But there is so much stuff here, and being able to take Anya to the Children's Museum.
Oh
and
yeah.
the,
That is so good. The
Crystal Bridges.
and also what is that? Amazium.
Amazium is the Children's
that's pretty
Museum.
awesome.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
It's
we love the Amazium. We have a membership there. So
Yeah.
Yeah, us too.
I
Us
think
too.
my son a lot on Sundays, at least a couple of times a month.
That's a good time for it. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Before we start running out of time here, one more favorite thing in Bentonville, except that is favorite thing about each other.
Wow, that's tough. We've been married too long.
But
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, Aayush is very thoughtful. He is, and he, I'll say one of the things that I really appreciate about him as a business partner is we do things really differently, and we have different thinking processes. He balances me out. And I'll say too that if it weren't for him, I would be so much more of, I tend towards being a workaholic. He brings balance, reminds me to eat, so that I do eat breakfast and lunch because of Aayush. And he just overall really takes care of me as a business partner and also as a life partner.
Wow.
Nice.
I don't have nice things to say here. So I think I really like Deme is pretty organized in terms of defining the bounding box of things, conditions, situations, and helping us kind of keep in that so we don't overextend. I think that's something that I have never mastered or never can master. So that is one of the skills that I really like. And in terms of business, I feel like I'm more like a otter or a beaver of sorts, where like you have a dam and you just always keep an eye out or ear out for like where the leak is starting, and that's kind of how I am. Like, oh, Deme is getting burnt out, so gotta bring that down, like stress levels and things like that. So
Oh, that's cool. That's a good combo. All right. Before we transition into the last segment of the show, tell me a story. Tell me a hashtag because Bentonville story, something that happened here where you go, in that moment that this could only happen here, or maybe it describes the essence of this place.
I would say meeting with Tyson, that won't happen outside of here, I'm pretty sure. Or at least with the stage that our company is in, I don't think we would get direct audience with them, but that, at least from the business perspective.
It is a shortcut to these larger companies here, yes.
I mean, you just have no chance of
yeah.
getting anyone on the phone with a cold call, whatever. It's the connections that really are needed. And Bentonville has been very welcoming and supportive of helping try to facilitate as many of those as possible.
Very cool. Okay, as we start wrapping up, Deme, what's a question I should ask Aayush that I wouldn't necessarily know to ask?
I think that you should ask him what his pet rabbit's name was.
What's your pet rabbit's name?
I had one, and then my stupid brother
Ate it?
No, he had
Almost.
asthma, so my mom gave away my rabbit.
To someone who probably ate it. Yeah.
Seems like you're still not over that.
Yeah,
I understand.
I had drawn both our names with a heart in the middle, which is sad. But I was maybe 5 or 6. So.
I understand. Well, we're going to flip the script now. Aayush, what's a question that I should ask Deme that I wouldn't know to ask?
I would. Deme is very, very artsy, very creative. Like, you should ask her about that. She is just phenomenal in terms of things she can create.
Cool.
That, your Etsy people will be in shame.
What do you like creating?
So many different things. I really like fibers, a lot of stuff that involves fabric or papers and collages, but I like experimenting. I feel like there are a few things that I'll do multiple times and kind of like master more, but so much is like experimenting. And so more of a learning process.
Have you thought about a side business, Etsy side business?
He tries to encourage me to do that. It sounds like fun, but I know it would just become one more thing to do.
Yeah, her and her mom are both, very creative on that aspect. And I suck. Like, I can't even draw a stick figure.
I totally understand that. We have somebody coming on the show in the next few weeks who's one of the top sellers on Etsy. And her story kind of starts as just something that she was doing, and she was looking for something to do, and her friends and family encouraged her to start an Etsy account, and I'll let her tell the rest of that story when she's on.
Oh yeah, no, Etsy. Yeah, we love Etsy in terms of the creative stuff.
Giving gifts is a wonderful place to do it.
Very cool. Okay, 2 final questions. If somebody wants to know more about you two or more about Freight Relay, I was going to say Truckish, your prior company name. So you may find Truckish out there. It's now Freight Relay. If they want to know more about you or Freight Relay, how do they do that?
I would say that probably the best way would be to shoot us an email at hello@freightrelay.com. That's Freight Relay is spelled FR8 relay as in RELAY.com. But you can also find us on Facebook and Twitter and our website.
Yeah, and I can say the same thing in Hindi if you want.
Go for it. I would love to hear that. We haven't had anybody say anything in Hindi on the show. Okay. So yes, please do.
Yeah, sure. So this is the same thing in Hindi, or approximately the same thing. That आप लोग सुनने के लिए धन्यवाद. और आप लोग हमें ऑनलाइन फेसबुक, लिंक्डइन, ट्विटर पे ढूंढ सकते हैं. हमारा नाम, कंपनी का नाम है फ्रेट रिले, FR8relay.com. और लिंक्डइन पे भी सेम है, फेसबुक पे भी सेम है, और ट्विटर पे भी सेम है. और अगर आपको हमें ईमेल भेजना है डायरेक्टली, तो आप hello@freightrelay.com पे भेज सकते हैं. धन्यवाद.
Awesome. Nice job. Last question. This may be a stumper. What should I have asked you that I did not ask?
Boy. I don't know. I think you asked a lot of questions.
Awesome. Yeah. Then I'll ask this. What's next for Freight Relay?
Well, next is exciting. We are that part I can definitely talk about.
Excellent.
So we are currently, Deme is leading the Department of Energy project that we are working on. We are working with 2 small rural towns in US. One is based in Oklahoma called Shoto, which is just south of Pryor, the Mid-America Industrial Park. And then another town we are working with is Pinta, Arizona, which is a Navajo Nation town. And then, so that's just that one project. And then on top of that, we are working on pilots with our partners here in Arkansas. And we are hoping to deploy a relay trucking pilot, hopefully by the end of this year or early next year, depending on where we are and, if we are able to reach our negotiations. But yeah, a lot of exciting stuff. Stay tuned to our LinkedIn page. That's where we are most active in terms of sharing the project information. And, if you have any questions, feel free to email us or call us too. I think you can also search us on Google. So, yeah.
Wonderful. Well, I'm excited to hear about that. I'm thrilled for the progress that you've made and that we've been able to, about the same time, make this move to Bentonville and everything that's happened here. So thank y'all. I'm going to say on behalf of truckers, thank y'all for how you're changing their lives, how you're changing consumers' lives by getting things faster. Gosh, I wish that would have been a thing like right in the middle of the pandemic. Well, maybe we can get the product to begin with, so it would have helped. But really, you're reducing the cost and speed of getting things to consumers, and so that helps benefit everybody's economy. So thank y'all for the work that you do, and thank you to the Bentonville Beacon podcast audience. Really appreciate you taking the time to spend with us. Please share this episode with your friends and colleagues, however you might do on email or social media, and come back to hear more about Bentonville and Northwest Arkansas, this place where you can get more of what you want and less of what you don't. And as always, visit BentonvilleEconomicDevelopment.com to see all of our podcasts, episodes, or check out your favorite podcast player and hit subscribe. Thanks. See you next time.